Happy holidays, everybody. Welcome to Big Blue Avenue. I'm your host, Tom Scavetta, joined alongside my co-host, Sam Cardona. Sam, how are you? Just a two talent going tonight without Hank. He's at MSG. But first off, how are you feeling after a nice win?
I'm feeling amazing. I think that was one of the best primetime games I think we've seen with the Giants for a long time. It was amazing and it was very exciting. It was a good game. It was good back and forth. I'm really excited to kind of recap it a little bit tonight with you, but it was great and it felt really good to still be in the race for the wild card spot for the playoffs.
Absolutely. Giants now over a 90% chance to make the playoffs following that win. Uh, and of course, a Washington loss and a Seattle loss as well. Folks, if you want to comment throughout the night or check us out and some of our other content, make sure to follow us on all of our social media below on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. And if you're into sports betting, make sure to go check out our sponsor, BetUS, with our promo code below there at Join125. That gives you a 125% sign up bonus. You can bet anywhere from your mobile device on the go. And that is America's number one favorite sports book as well, where the game begins. So, our week 15 takeaways, Sam, and we already have comments blowing up. One from Hank saying, "Let's go, Big Blue. Let's go, Rangers." Sean Militello saying, "What's up?" The G Man, yes. Shout out Sean Militello, guest of Review and Preview last night. Sam, I want to get to you here. The Giants' offense looked formidable on Sunday night. I thought it finally clicked in America's head that Daniel Jones might be the long-term solution for the Giants. 0 sacks were given up, and I was just very impressed overall by the performance, offensively and defensively. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau is an absolute stud.
Oh my god. That was one of the things too, was not only did our offense look good, but I mean that defense held off so many points in this game. It was amazing. And Kayvon looked incredible. Like every single play was just it was amazing. I think that our constantly every single week talking about how protecting Daniel Jones is a key to the game, I think finally is coming to fruition in prime time. We saw that happen. We saw them protecting Daniel Jones. Like you said, it was only 4 hits that he had, 0 sacks. Amazing that he was actually able to have the time to get the ball down the field and to basically nickel and dime them all the way down and score points. And that's what it is. That's the whole point of this offense, especially right now without a star receiver. That's what's going to work. And obviously, I'm happy that this happened in prime time because now not only Giants fans are seeing it, other people are seeing it too. That like we've been preaching this for so long about how Daniel Jones is such a good player and the future in the quarterback position for the New York Giants, and no one has even believed us. And I even tweeted out Sunday night, I was like, hello, everybody who's now on the Daniel Jones trains. Welcome. We've been here forever. Like I'm happy that people were finally able to like see that's something that we've been preaching.
Absolutely. He has been a gem for us this season. Again, people will go and say, well, he didn't attempt a single pass over 15 yards. But if you remember the first 2 games against Washington, he was sacked 4 or 5 times. Sunday, he was sacked 0 times. And part of the game plan was getting the ball out quick because Washington has a good front force. You know, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne weren't factors. And again, it's not because of a potential limitation with Jones. It's more because, A, when the pass rush gets to you, the wide receivers have less time to create separation from these DBs. And with the Giants' wide receiver room, it's not good. It takes them longer time to get separation from these defensive backs. So that's why they had to get the ball out quick. I think Isaiah Hodgins can potentially be a mainstay on this team next year. Sam, did you see that video of him in the locker room post game?
I don't think I did.
I think it was him. It was Isaiah Hodgins, and Sterling Shepard was doing a little dance or something.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, it was funny.
That's awesome. Isaiah Hodges too. I mean, like he didn't have like a huge game, but
Hmm.
constant reliable target, like
Yeah.
just always there, always available, and like that's someone that we need even if he's not the star of the team. It's very, very important on our offense.
Andrew Thomas, 35 pass blocking snaps, just one pressure allowed. Very impressed with him. One key takeaway, though, it's a little bit negative. It's clear as day that both Jalen Smith and Darnay Holmes need to be replaced next season. Neither of those guys are going to cut it long term here in New York, New Jersey. I spoke about this in my recap with Hank since he couldn't be on the show this week, Sam, but Washington didn't get robbed. They did not get robbed. There was majority of the calls early in the game were against the Giants. Now, people are mad because it was a game-altering play. But, A, where was the illegal hands to the face on Kayvon Thibodeau on the exact same play? Where was the face mask call on Daniel Jones earlier in the game? And where was the official last year when they called the offsides on Dexter Lawrence on the missed field goal when he clearly didn't enter the neutral zone? Again, this is kind of our payback for that, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, people will be talking about that for at least the rest of the season here, like especially if and when the Giants make the playoffs. Like, people are going to make a big stink about that forever. But we know, missed calls happen all the time, especially in a game-altering setting. I mean, we've seen it happen in the NFC Championship game with the Saints. Obviously, they had that missed pass interference call too. So, it's not something that we could just say like that definitely wasn't pass interference, because most likely it was, but there were so many other missed calls that happened in that game. Like the officials just didn't do well at all, especially in prime time. You would expect better from them, but it wasn't a well called game.
Yeah, it was definitely pass interference, but there were a lot of factors in that game more than just that. Quick shout out to our buddy Gabe Flayton saying "Skull."
What's up, Gabe?
Hope, Gabe, you're feeling better, buddy. We have a Vikings guest tonight joining us. She got to push it back to around 7:40, unfortunately. But we'll be previewing the game before then. She'll be coming on talking about Kirk Cousins, Jetta, of course, Dalvin Cook, Kevin O'Connell, and that outstanding Vikings 11-win team this season. We're really looking forward to talking about that. And I'm not happy about playing the Vikings this week, but we got to do it.
This is Tom's literal, like, it's your worst nightmare. Two teams that you really, really like.
Yeah, but obviously, like, I don't like the Vikings that much. Because the Giants have been shitty the last few years. It's if they're out. If you had to make me root for a team, that would be the one. Another key takeaway for me, Sam, I don't know how you felt about this, but over the last 3 weeks, Kayvon's been the MVP of this defense, and it's clear as day that the pass rush is winning us football games right now. People are starting to call the Giants defense the Fantastic Four with Dexter, Leo, Azeez, and KT. So what do you think about that? I mean, I think drafting Kayvon, it's helped reinstall a winning culture when you have a player like that. Even though the strip sack, scoop, and score was fancy, his best play of the game was that tackle at the 1 yard line on Taylor Heineke. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that. And I love having a core defense that will most likely be sticking around for quite a number of years and that we can rely on. Because Azeez is young, and obviously Kayvon just drafted this year. These guys aren't someone that's going to be heading out, next year, in the next couple of years. So I'm happy about that. I'd love to have a strong defense. People say defense wins championships. So, and I wholeheartedly believe that. So to have someone like him, and he's so passionate about so many things. He loves this team a lot, and he's this guy that we've been talking about trying to get this star wide receiver, but when we can perform without one and we have a star on the defense instead, like, I'll take that. I love that, and I think that he's boosting the confidence of the other guys, and he's doing a great job. And I believe he's an alternate in the Pro Bowl this year, which is very impressive as a rookie. So it's
fourth alternate.
Yeah, it's but still, like, it's really impressive feat to get voted into the Pro Bowl. So I'm happy with that.
Quick comment from our buddy Tudo saying what's up. Massive
Tudo?
And respects to Big Boss Tommy and Giants crowd. Favorite Sam, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and God bless everyone from Italy.
Thanks,
Appreciate you.
Tudo.
Appreciate you, Tudo. And Sam, before we get to our player of the week, yeah, you had some tea for us this past week. And obviously, there was a different look on the sideline for the Giants Sunday night. And it starts with the man running the show and head coach Brian Dable. And apparently, you're not a fan of this.
No. And we had a conversation about this earlier this week. It's not the goatee in general because it works for Tom, but I don't think it works for Coach Dable here. It's, he has a rounder face, obviously. I would dig a beard. I would dig a full beard, especially, not having the hair on top. You can bring the hair down, facial hair, but it just, I am not a fan of it, but if it's winning us games, if it's like that one weird magical aspect to this team that's going to help us win games, I'll deal with it. But it's I don't know. I don't like it at all.
This was his primary look in Buffalo.
I know. And I thought when he came here, he had like the beard going. And I was like, all right, I'm digging it. And then he shaved, and I was like, oh no.
And what he used to do was the chin strap would go as well. It would be just that part.
Yeah.
The chin strap would be gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Imagine that. I think that might look worse.
Yeah, probably. But again, I won't say anything if it's gonna be this weird jinx of ours, but personally not the biggest fan of the goatee.
Look, Sam, it's not common anymore. Every time somebody comes up to me, they're like, oh, nice mustache. Like they don't see people with mustaches anymore. It's not common. I think, doesn't Michael have one too? He has a mustache, right?
He has a full beard.
Yeah.
He has a full beard. So, and he's had that now. I haven't seen him clean shaven probably like 4 years.
Wow.
5 years. So I'm used to facial hair. I'm a fan of facial hair, but just Coach Dable might need to just grow out the sides a little bit.
Let's get into our New York Giants player of the week now that we moved on from Brian Dable. Sam, our week 15 player of the week. This is this man's third time getting this award in the past 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Absolutely astronomical player. I'll go out on a limb and say he might be the best player on the defense next year. I'm going to still give it a Dexter for this year because he's been outstanding, but Kayvon Thibodeau, and what a picture selection, Sam.
I had to throw that in there when I made that graphic. It was very obvious that when he did that, I was in love. I love that. So obviously Kayvon, we've been talking about him since we started the show. Kayvon has 12 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, a quarterback hurry, and a touchdown, which again was a very, very impressive play of his. He's the only edge defender with 80 plus pass rush and a run defense grade in week 15, which is really amazing. He was named NFC Defensive Player of the Week this week, which is amazing. We're so happy for him for that. He's played 79% of the defensive snaps. And he's the only rookie since 2000 with 10 tackles, a sack, and a defensive touchdown in 1 game. Strip sack was 2.5 seconds, tied for the 13th quickest sack in the NFL this year. That was just so impressive. He went so fast. Defensive pass rush, 3.84 yards to average separation from a quarterback. Only edge defender. Oh, I already said that part. And 2 games versus Washington, 17 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 forced fumble recovery, and a touchdown. So obviously the next couple of years versus Washington, I think they're going to be pretty afraid of Kayvon Thibodeau going into that rivalry.
And another fun fact, he is the first Giants rookie to win NFC Defensive Player of the Week since Devon Kennard in 2014.
Yeah.
Little fun fact, who went to my first cousin's high school out in Arizona.
Really?
Fun fact about Devon Kennard. Yep. My mom's brother's family lives in Phoenix. So
look at that.
Little small world right there. Desert Vista High School. So now that we move on from that, Sam, we have some dirty laundry to air out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Tay Crowder was finally freed. Well, not really. He was freed from the active roster. He now gets to retool himself on the Giants practice squad.
Yeah.
What did you think of this move when it came out?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it briefly. There's obviously talent such as Landon Collins, which was more beneficial to us to have on the active roster. Tay Crowder is not a bad player for us. You know, he was our Mr. Irrelevant 2 years ago in the draft, or 3 years ago. He's done what he needs to do, but obviously, you know, having Landon on the active roster is better for us. So I think it makes sense. I don't really appreciate the fact that he had to tweet out "free me" and then he puts on the practice squad. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. Crowder was the 255th overall pick and final selection in the 2020 draft. Started 31 games in 3 years for the Giants. This year, he started the first 8 games, but eventually got replaced by Micah McFadden. And Sam, remember the interview we did with License Plate Guy? We were saying it's starting to swing in the rookie's favor, and it is. McFadden reminds me of, this might sound crazy, a younger version of Blake Martinez.
Okay.
He's very good at run stopping, but he has to improve some dynamics of his game. But the bottom line here is that nobody's bigger than the Giants.
Right.
That was the bottom line with Tay Crowder. He definitely exceeded expectations for where he was picked. But again, who knows? Maybe the Giants will call him back up for the playoffs. But Landon Collins takes his spot, though, Sam. How happy are you for Landon to be back on the Giants roster as a linebacker?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a spot that we obviously were lacking a bit in, especially after, you know, we had to lose Blake in the offseason. But I'm happy, you know, he's familiar with this team. You know, I know it's been ever changing since he hasn't been here, but you know, I'd rather have someone who's a little bit familiar with the team than nobody at all. I think that he's going to be great, and he's proved himself these past couple of weeks after we've brought him on. So, you know, I think that he can improve this defense, and you know, it's already getting really strong as it is. And I think it's just another puzzle piece to add in there that can just make this defense even tighter, even better than it already is.
Absolutely. And I think he had a really good game on Sunday night, playing in a season high 27 snaps against Washington. Other moves this week for the Giants, they worked out former Rams running back Darrell Henderson on Tuesday per Art Stapleton, along with rookie out of Baylor, Abram Smith and Nate McCrary. Also, Saquon Barkley and Dexter Lawrence have been selected to the 2023 Pro Bowl. Congratulations, Saquon and Dexter.
Yeah.
Barkley is second Pro Bowl. Dexter Lawrence, the first interior defensive lineman to make it for the Giants since 1990. What do you think of that?
Just goes to show how impressive Dexter Lawrence has been this year. That you always see these flashy guys, the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, the running backs making the Pro Bowl, but like it's really so much more special for some of these other guys, like an inside defensive lineman, to make the Pro Bowl, because it's like that's how good he is. That's how good and how effective he's been on the defense. So for us, I'm very impressed, and I'm really happy for both of them.
Couple comments. Tudo says, Tommy, do I recall my recommendations on last week regarding the Giants match against Skins? Things to do list to win. Giants must repeat same mentality to win against the Minions. Yeah. Tudo was very bold about that last week. Deanna Karen saying hello.
Hi, Deanna.
Hi, friends. And Deanna is a big Giants fan as well. Why can't I unpin her comment? There we go. She bought me coffee on Dunkin' Monday when the Giants won.
What a good girlfriend.
Yeah, so a little fun fact about there. We got a little laugh out of her. That's probably all we'll get. But Graham Gano, second team alternate. Andrew Thomas, third team alternate. Sam, I don't know if I agree with this.
Yeah.
I thought he should have been at least a first team alternate for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Thomas has been one of the solid left sides of the line and we've been talking about him for weeks in his entire season, talking about how much if he wasn't there, Saquon Barkley would not be able to perform and be a Pro Bowler right now. Like that's something that should definitely have correlated there. I agree. I don't fully agree with that decision, but for him to be in there at all, I mean, I'm happy. It's not like he got snubbed, but still, I think that he is so impressive. And again, Saquon Barkley wouldn't be able to do the things that he's doing without him there.
It's tough. The NFC has a lot of good tackles. I mean, Trent Williams, Lane
Yeah.
Johnson,
Mhm.
Mike McGlinchey. I mean, there's a lot of good tackles in the NFC. It's not like he got ousted by like high schoolers or amateurs.
Right.
I feel like that's what some Giants fans are making this out to be. That's not the case. Thomas has struggled the last couple of weeks until this past weekend, but the team we're going to be playing, Sam, on Saturday at 1 p.m. on Christmas Eve. That's why we have a little holiday Christmas theme show, whatever you want to call it, whatever you may celebrate. The Vikings had 5 Pro Bowlers. Kirk Cousins makes his 4th Pro Bowl. Justin Jefferson, 3rd in 3 opportunities.
Yeah.
Zadarius Smith with his 3rd. TJ Hawkinson with his 2nd. And long snapper Andrew DePaolo with his 1st. So, yeah, Minnesota's a really good team. And, Sam, I'm hearing the Vikings will be iced out for this Christmas Eve matchup. They'll be wearing their all-white uniforms. And I think LPG posted this. It's supposed to be -1 degrees in Minnesota.
Oh, my God. I can't even imagine being in the stands at -1 degrees. It was even when we were at the Giants game, was that like a week or 2 ago? That one that Hank and I had both attended. It was wet and rainy. I think it was like
Chilly.
maybe like 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And I was freezing. I mean, it was also wet and raining, but I was like, oh my God, at negative. Oh, my thing just went out. But -1 degrees is insane.
It is. It is very insane. Gabe says Harrison Smith got snubbed. I second that. I love Harrison Smith. What does he have? 5 interceptions this past year. Gabe, for me, and I'm sure you agree with this as an analytical person, the all pros matter more than the Pro Bowls. I mean, Sam, let's be real. Isn't the Pro Bowl, it's just a popularity contest, right? The all pros,
Absolutely.
to me, carry more weight.
Absolutely. I mean, the Pro Bowl for many, many years was this touch, football game that was like barely anything. They're trying to make it a little bit more impressive now or trying to make it more fun with the different types of skills and whatever. And it's fun to watch, but yeah, all pro is definitely something that's more impressive to me. And the Pro Bowl has really lost a lot of its meaning behind it. I mean, it's still impressive to get selected for a Pro Bowl nonetheless, but you're right. Popularity contest a lot of times. I mean, the fact Justin Jefferson's on his 3rd Pro Bowl in his 3rd year in the NFL, like he's just because he's that good also, and like everybody loves him. But yeah, it's also like he's that guy, and that's the guy you want to see in the Pro Bowl. You're not going to watch it for some random person who just had a good year or something like that.
Yeah. That's a good point. I forget the Vikings play indoors now with the U.S. Bank. Gabe, you would know. It's a retractable roof. No, I can't remember. But
they play inside? I don't think I realized that.
I thought they played outdoors. It has to be a retractable roof. Tommy Collins, very mature and experienced, but he's super slow feet. Yeah, he's not good in pass coverage. Coach Wink should utilize him behind interior linemen to close the gaps and avoid any surprise runs. He is a tackler, and that's the problem. Our linebackers can't tackle in the run game. That's why we're so bad. It's not our defensive line that's the problem. It's our linebackers, and Gabe confirms that it is retractable.
Yeah. So I guess they do play outside sometimes, and I hope they close it this weekend.
Well, we'll see. Football is, in my opinion, again, I'm a little old school, but an outdoor game. I'd rather freeze my butt off. Not retractable. Oh. Okay.
Wow, so it's just a dome, or it's like inside. stadium.
But back to the series, the Vikings have had the Giants number. They lead the all-time series 17-12. They've won the last 3 meetings. 2 of those victories came in playoff games, actually. Or 2 victories of the 17 came in playoff games, I should say. The Vikings won the last meeting 28-10 at MetLife back in 2019. The Giants have not beaten the Vikings since 2013. They won 23-7. That was the game where the Vikings randomly started Josh Freeman. Gabe, you'll remember this if you're watching, and he gave the Giants their first win of the season. But that game was technically, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, the Giants were winless in that game. And the Giants have not won in Minnesota since 2004, technically, because remember, the 2010 road win had to be played on a Monday night in Detroit because a snowstorm damaged the roof of the Metrodome.
Is Detroit like the generic neutral zone? That's where the Bills just were too. I mean, I guess that's the middle of the country enough, but isn't it more towards the east?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Shout out Mike DeSanto, co-host of Four Corners, our wrestling podcast, Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Review and Preview Sports Network, same network that we air on, Big Blue Avenue. Built where the Metrodome was. They replaced the Metrodome. Gabe says, I wish they played outside. Gabe is definitely agree with you there. Kayvon is going to wreck Captain Kirk. Oh, God, I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so. And Kirk Cousins needs a lot of time to decide. That's why they run a lot of play actions, and they have 2 bookend tackles in Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. They're both young. They're going to have their hands full with Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau. That's a more fierce pass rush than anybody on the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I mean, we saw, obviously the Vikings just had that one of the most amazing football games of all time, possibly this past weekend. But we saw at the beginning, they were struggling hard. I mean, Kirk Cousins basically sacked himself in the beginning of that game. So, and the joke is, the 1 p.m. Kirk, that primetime Kirk doesn't play well, but 1
Daniel
p.m.
Jones
Kirk
gets the same thing.
Right. And now, that's finally good that's no longer, not, we got to win a few more primetime games, but, Kirk Cousins is this 1 p.m. master. But obviously, that he has his weak spots, and there's the times within some of his play that, yes, he has a lot of weapons and a lot of amazing, pieces of this team, but if he can't get the ball down the field, then you can't score points that way. So we'll see.
Kirk Cousins is very good at getting the ball out quick. I like Kirk Cousins a lot. I think right now he's a top 10 quarterback in this league, obviously towards the back end of that. But yeah, he's very good getting the ball out to his receivers. I mean, we saw that on Saturday. But Hank has a little fun fact for us before we kind of break down this game. Did you know when the Giants traded for Fran Tarkenton, the Vikings used one of their first-round picks on Ron Yari, who became one of the pillars of a strong Vikings offensive line during their 1970s Super Bowl runs? And that's part of the reason why I've never disliked the Vikings, is because of the history there with Fran Tarkenton, played for both the Giants and the Vikings. So, and again, growing up, my grandfather was a big Fran Tarkenton fan, and we always had that discussion. Was he better on the Giants or was he better on the Vikings? So it was always a theory for discussion. And in this game, we have a battle of 2 rookie head coaches. We have Brian Daboll against Kevin O'Connell. In my opinion, the 2 best coaching hires right now. I think Mike McDaniel's a close third.
No, I love this. I love this storyline. I love the fact that we actually get to see also just the minds of 2 rookie head coaches going head to head, because I think that's really interesting. 2 teams that have obviously shown out incredibly this year, and a lot of people really weren't expecting it. I knew that the Vikings were going to be semi good, but I wasn't expecting them to be as good as they are now. Same with the Giants, obviously. So I love this storyline. I'm really excited to watch them go head to head. And these are the 2 guys that I think are going to be competing for Coach of the Year at the end before the Super Bowl.
It's possible. I mean, Unfortunately, the Jets have fallen off a little bit, so I think that puts Salah out of it.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are already good, so I don't know if I'd consider Mike McDaniel. It could be Dable or O'Connell. It definitely could be one of those two guys. And did you know, Sam,
Mm.
that Brian Dable worked out Kevin O'Connell back in 2008? O'Connell was a young rookie prospect heading into the NFL draft. Brian Dable was the quarterback's coach of the New York Jets at the time.
Wow.
Brett Favre had just left, and Dable flew out to San Diego to work out Kevin O'Connell.
Wow. Well, there you go. I love that history even more now because, maybe Dable knows what he may or may not do based off of what he was as a player.
Giants open up as 4-point road underdogs.
Mhm.
Giants and Sam, one thing we always talk about the Giants is their red zone efficiency this year, how much it's improved. The Giants are now 8th in NFL red zone efficiency, scoring touchdowns at a 63.5% rate.
Yeah. I love that stat because I compared it to last year. And last
Yeah.
year, we were dead last.
Yeah.
Dead last. And we tried bringing in, we brought in Kyle Rudolph, somebody who is an elite, red zone tight end that I thought was just going to be like banging out those touchdowns left and right. And that just didn't happen. Obviously, we've brought parts of our team to make us better. But I just think that with all the parts that we have brought in, our red zone efficiency to jump from last place up to in the top 10, like that's I love that for us, and I love that there's numbers that are proving how well we're improving on the side of the field where the points are going to matter. On the point
Right.
of the side where that was our whole thing. We were getting down the field, we just couldn't get the points last year. Like that was one of our biggest issues. So the fact that now we're finally making it down the field and getting 6-7 points on the board, even 3 points on the board when it needs to happen, that's what's helping us win games. And I love that stat so much. When I saw that on the script, I was like, I texted you and I was like, we have to talk about this because it's one of the biggest things that's really helping us win.
Yeah, it really is. And did you know that even though the Vikings have 11 wins this year, 10 of their games have come within one possession? So the Vikings, similar to the Giants, have done a good job at winning those close games and gutting them out. And it's hard for Minnesota sometimes because they'll have these leads, but the Vikings are the second worst team in the NFL in passing yards allowed. They're last in total yards allowed per game, and they're 28th in the league with 25 points per game allowed. So they heavily rely on their offense. They score a lot of points. Their front seven is above average, in my opinion, but their secondary is depleted. They have injuries, and I think that's where the Giants can get them. Like the game plan this week, Sam, could be get the ball down the field to Darius Slayton, Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, Daniel Bellinger. That could be the game plan. We could see Jones throw the ball 40 times potentially.
Yeah, which honestly he can, and we've seen him do it in this past week. Not 40 times, but we've seen him getting the ball down the field is very good as long as he's not turning over, and he hasn't been turning the ball over, at least not as much as last year. So I'm very excited to see how this game ends up playing out.
Yeah. Gabe says Vikings must have the best red zone D. I'm not sure exactly what that stat is if the Vikings are amongst the top in that category, but I know they give up a lot of yards down the football field. Larry Johnson saying, what's up, Larry? Frequent commenter for us. What is up tonight? Sam, Tom, how are y'all doing? Garth, what's up, Garth? Thank you. Garth is the co-host of Puckin' Around, our hockey podcast. And Tudo says red zone efficiency has to do with quarterback and O-line's coach coordination being on the same page.
That's completely right.
As a rugby player, Tudo, very knowledgeable about the trenches up front.
Absolutely.
Mike with a comment. Yeah, he's right. The progressions have improved. Did you see that 97-yard drive last week, Sam?
Oh.
I've never seen anything like it.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. We looked like a real football team. And that's what we've been trying to get to like people who respect us as even, a team that's even over 500 at the end of the season, which is something that's going to happen for us. Like like we can do that, and
Yeah.
it's amazing that how much Daniel Jones has improved with his coaching staff. It's incredible.
Yeah. And he's earned himself another contract, whether it's long term,
100%.
short term, whatever it might be. You can't throw a dart at the NFL draft or free agency and say this guy's going to be better than Daniel Jones.
Not at this point. No.
Definitely not. And our statistician, Brian McCardle, always coming in clutch. He's a very quiet watcher. He'll throw in 1 or 2 comments a show, and here it is. Thank you, Brian. 16th best red zone defense.
Denver, number 1.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Denver's defense has definitely not been their problem this year. Unfortunately, their offense has been the other way around, Brian.
Broncos country, let's ride.
But I will say, Sam, the Vikings are coming off a historic win on Saturday. They trailed 33-0 at halftime to Jeff Saturday's Indianapolis Colts, only to win 39-36 in OT, clinching their first NFC North title since 2017. Kirk Cousins had 4 touchdown passes and a 64-yard touchdown pass to Dalvin Cook that tied the game at 36. Then Minnesota had to go for 2 and made it. Cousins sacked 7 times. He was struggling. Did you get to catch any of this game? Because I'll be honest, I caught none of it, not a single minute. And that was not planned.
It was unfortunate that this, out of all of the games that I didn't get to watch this past weekend, that was one of them. And people were telling me it was one of the best games of the season. I tried to watch a little bit of the highlights, but, the fact that they were able to come back in that overtime and it was so close. I mean, poor Matt Ryan struggling so much with these comebacks, being up 33 points. You think that that's an automatic win. But yeah, unfortunately I didn't get to watch a lot of this game, and it'll be a regret of my 2022 NFL season because that's the second game that the Vikings have had an amazing game. The one against the Bills had me literally screaming and jumping at the edge of my seat because of how well they were able to come back and perform. So we got to get out we'll get to the keys of the game, but coming out on top first is something really important for us to do with the Vikings.
I agree with that. It's going to be a very, very tough matchup. We do have our guest backstage. Bring her up in just 1 minute. They won't be in position to pick another quarterback. Time to buy in on Danny. And
that's correct.
Remind me, who said they'd make the playoffs? I did. Last year on the day of the Super Bowl, my ass, as you can see, I'm wearing this Giants coat right now, but my ass was the one that decided to say the Vikings are going to the playoffs and going to win the NFC North. So, folks, for the first time ever on Big Blue Avenue, I'm going to skull for that because I'm going to give myself a shout out.
As you should. That was back in February. We were able to say that.
But 518 yards of total offense. The Vikings are outstanding. They outscored the Colts 22-0 in the fourth quarter. They were so great.
So good.
But I'm excited. We got meeting up with Dalvin Tomlinson again. That should be fun.
Totally.
Ryan Connolly. I know he's on the practice squad, but he's a former Giant as well. And one last thing here. The Giants have 3 playoff clinching scenarios this week: a win plus a Lions loss and a Washington loss, a win plus a Lions and Seahawks loss, and a win plus a Washington and Seattle loss. I don't think any of those are happening, but I am hopeful that maybe Washington and Seattle both lose, Sam. I think that's probably the most likely one. And maybe we somehow, some way, if we squeak out a win, that's the most likely way for it to happen.
Yeah, we'll definitely, we'd love to win, but it might come to relying on a couple of losses.
Absolutely. But at this time, we'd like to introduce our guest for the evening. It is Sally of the Believe in Vikings show. And here she is. Sally, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. I'm great. Thank you for having me. Got to show off the NFC North shirt. Okay, I thought I'd have a little more room. I'm good. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. thank you so much for answering my 11th hour message the other night. I was watching one of your shows. Now, I know you do a show with former Vikings Bryant McKinney, the left tackle.
I
Is that
do,
correct?
yes. The big guy.
So can you plug your content and where people can find you, that and then your other podcast as well?
Sure. So Believe in Vikings, which is BLEAV, because it's on the Believe Sports Podcast Network. They selected that name before I came along, so it's not my fave, but so we do that with Bryant McKinney, and thankfully, because of who he is and the social butterfly that he is, he gets tons of great guests. So we have some really awesome guests a lot of the time. I've gotten to meet Randy Moss through that, Nate Burleson, Jared Allen, awesome guys. And then I have another podcast called Sports in the City, which is a little more lifestyle based, and I do that on the local sports network here, KFAN. So, but full disclosure, I didn't have that podcast this week, and that's the one I do a ton of prep for. So I'm not as prepped as normal. So bear with me if I mess something up, because I didn't have time today.
No problem. I mean, we have a decent amount of questions for you. Actually, one of our good friends is a Vikings fan from New York.
Oh, okay.
And he's watching right now. So there is another one of you in here.
What's his name?
Gabe Flayton.
Hey, Gabe.
Yeah.
Come hang out. Why isn't he coming to the game? What a fraud.
Yeah, here he is. Hi, Sally, Vikings fan here in the comments. Yeah, he's a big Vikings fan. I think Gabe's dad is from Minnesota. I think that's.
I believe. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. When I was at the game last week, I heard you guys talk about it a little bit. So I'm still kind of emotionally recovering from that as well. So bear with me, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. Speaking of that game, I'll just throw you right on the spot, Sally. Where do you rank last week's come from behind win in Vikings history?
Well, our season has kind of been marked by come from behind wins this entire year. Obviously, this was a whole other level. I heard you mention the Bills game right before I came on here, and I didn't think that anything would ever top that. And then just few weeks later, a month later, here we are. In history, I mean, gosh, I think that it's the one that is really sticking out for me. Usually the Vikings have a history of it going the other way, like the other team having a huge comeback after they get off to a big lead, just like the Minneapolis Miracle game, or I'm sure there's a ton I'm not thinking of. So this is definitely at the top of the list for me for comebacks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I'm like my secondary team is the Bills, so that was one of the hardest games for me to watch. It was tough, but the Vikings have really been impressive this year, and part of the reason for that is Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson is just an amazing talent, and that will probably become a Hall of Famer one year. But what do you think it is about Justin Jefferson that makes it so hard for these defensive guys to cover him? Like, what is it about him that he's just so electric?
I mean, I think it's just his ability to run routes, to constantly, make quick moves that throw the defenders off. And I mean, look at his hands. I mean, you guys remember the Buffalo game, that insane catch. I don't know. I mean, he just has the intangibles that I think no one even expected him to have. I mean, he was like more of a slot receiver in college, and no one knew that he was going to be this deep threat that he has become.
Right.
But he just seems like he's constantly improving week after week.
Folks, since we are live, if you have any questions for Sally, make sure to comment in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. I'm a big Justin Jefferson fan, and actually the Vikings fan has a question for you.
Oh,
Gabe.
Okay. Hey, Gabe.
How important was the crowd in the comeback? I thought the stadium would have emptied out at halftime.
Yeah. So I was one of those that kind of wanted to leave, to be honest with you. I host a tailgate, and our tailgating is pretty amateur compared to what the rest of the league has for the most part. Unfortunately, we have very, very limited space. So we have rules like we're not allowed to leave our stuff up. But I left all of our stuff up because I'm like, well, we're going to have to celebrate so everyone can F off. So I had like it was really windy. So I'm like, okay, we're getting our ass kicked and my tent's going to blow away and ruin everyone's cars and all that. So I really didn't want to stay, but my friends kept ignoring me when I would say that. And about 20% of the people did leave. I'm surprised that it was that low. But because of that, I mean, I ran into some gals in the bathroom and they were like, hey, we're leaving. You can move up to the 10th row. You can have our seats. So, but I mean, honestly, I could not believe how in it the fans stayed, at least in my section. They were standing up after when the second half started. Everyone was yelling the whole time. And I really couldn't believe it because I certainly thought they had no chance.
Yeah, and part of the reason for their comeback, at least I think, again, I was working, so I didn't get to watch the game, unfortunately, but Kirk Cousins had 4 touchdown passes all in that second half. New offense this year under Wes Phillips and, Chris O'Hara. How do you evaluate him through the first 15 weeks of the season?
Well, I have never been a Kirk Cousins fan. When they decided to extend him in February, I thought about jumping off the roof at US Bank Stadium. Don't like the guy. Never have. I just didn't. I felt like they were trying to do this half rebuild, half not. They were calling it a soft rebuild. And I just didn't understand it. And wow, have I had to eat my words this entire season. I'm apologizing to him every week. And I was wrong. He has been so much more confident this year. And I think it's the intangible things. It is that confidence because he went from having a head coach in Mike Zimmer, who would say for 8 years, I'm hands off the offense. I want nothing to do with it. But then he would get up at the podium and say, well, this is a run first team. Run first, run first, run first. So he said he didn't want control, but then he ultimately had control, So I think now he knows that he's playing for coaches and teammates who really trust him and they're giving him confidence. And in turn, he's giving them confidence. And I think those are the intangible things that have really taken his game to the next level. A critique of his is that he can't come back from adversity. He's a big personal stats guy. It's things like he can't go off script. That's been the constant critiques of him throughout his career. And I think this season proves that that's not the case.
Definitely. And
I mean, that pick that he threw in the second half that was in the red zone, in the past, I feel like he would have shut down from that completely. And he just shrugged it off and next drive was great.
Yeah, totally. And Kirk Cousins is somebody that I've definitely had like my ups and downs feelings about Kirk Cousins. Like sometimes he looks amazing. Sometimes he's like, the whole 1 p.m. primetime Kirk Cousins debate with, he can't perform in primetime, whatever. So 1 p.m. Kirk's coming out this weekend. But I think something that's really important, and it's the same for the Giants as well, is that if the offensive line is good, then the quarterback is going to be better. So Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill are 2 guys that are really strong. How do you think that they have affected Kirk Cousins' performance, at least this year specifically?
Well, Christian Darrisaw was here last year, but he was not healthy. So it was really up in the air of, is he going to be as big of a fix as everyone has been saying that he is? Because much like the Giants, this has been a struggle for the Vikings for almost as long as I can remember. And until this season, their MO was that they were just going to shuffle the guys around at the line. Like sometimes you'd play tackle, sometimes even the center would play guard. Sometimes they were always mixing it. And there was just no consistency ever. And I think this is the first season, despite the injuries that they have had a few weeks here and there, they actually have a stable unit for the most part. And Christian Darrisaw has been playing phenomenally.
I'm happy to see that because I like both of those players, but it is unfortunate. I know Garrett Bradbury got in a car crash Saturday night, and he's out for Saturday's game. I mean, who do you think steps up in his place?
Well, oh my gosh, the man's name is escaping me right
Yeah,
now. It starts with an S.
Schwartman?
Yes. He played decently last time that he had to play. I mean, whenever you have a backup coming in, it puts more pressure on the guys around him, obviously, to step up. I don't know a ton about the Giants pass rush. You guys will have to fill me in on that. But I think that's a big benefit of having TJ Hawkinson now is that helps Kirk's ability to get the ball out faster because there's less guys to cover TJ now with, you've got at least 2 or 3 on JJ at all times. It gives him more options to get a ball out quick.
Another
Definitely.
comment here from Gabe Quick. Ed Ingram, can he stop tripping Kirk Cousins? If not, can we bring back Drew Samia?
You don't really want Drew Samia, really? I forget where he's
No.
playing, but he's doing pretty well, I think. I mean, better than he was.
I couldn't tell you where he is
What?
now. That's how irrelevant he was on Minnesota.
I know is playing somewhere because maybe it's the Jets or something. He's definitely playing somewhere. And like most guys that were in the Vikings offense in the Mike Zimmer regime, they play better when they get to other. Okay, I should have known, Gabe. I'm sorry. They play. It caught me off guard. I'm just getting to know you.
Yeah.
They play better when they get to other places because they are not so restricted in what they can do, and they're not scared all the time that something's gonna happen.
I'm gonna ad lib some questions off our script for a second, but you mentioned TJ Hawkinson. And a couple weeks ago we played the Lions, so we had Lions fans on, and we asked them how they felt about losing TJ Hawkinson. How did you feel when you found out that you received TJ Hawkinson from a rival like the Detroit Lions?
Well, my first instinct was, I was shocked for one.
Right.
But at first I was like, oh gosh, I traded with Detroit again because in the draft, the Vikings had the 12th pick, but they traded that to Detroit and moved back. And so at this point, Detroit has several Minnesota Vikings picks going forward. And in my opinion, Detroit is trending up. So we'll see how that plays out in years to come. But for now, there has been an issue finding consistency at tight end for the Vikings for a number of years. They drafted Irv Smith, at least 5 years ago, and it just hasn't worked out. He can't stay healthy. And so that was a position of need. And so I really like to see them go out after a big name like TJ when they're in the situation that they are, where they pretty much had the North. They were on their way to winning the division at that point. So I thought it was a bold move, and so far I like it. Because he does draw so much coverage. You can't cover him, JJ, Adam, all of them at the same time. Somebody's pretty much always going to be open.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned Osborne. I think it was Daniel. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to disrespect Osborne by any means.
Yeah, no. I think another thing I wanted to ask you too was defensively, a lot of additions this offseason. Jordan Hicks, Zadarius Smith, and Harrison Phillips from the Buffalo Bills. Those 3 guys, they've done a good job, I think, helping the front 7. As I know, the back end of the defense is definitely a concern for me, at least. But talk about those 3 players. Because I think, did Hicks replace Nick Vigil? I'm trying to remember if he was. I don't think he was on the team last year, right? He came over.
He was. Yeah, he came over, and then the other ones that you mentioned. Well, again, they changed the whole scheme this year, so that was concerning because what's that going to look like? And also Danielle Hunter, after the last 2 years, he missed an entire season, and then he missed the majority of a season. What was he going to be like? And Zadarius, coming off a major injury with the Packers as well, didn't really know what to expect from any of those guys. So despite the yards that they've been giving up and the points, those guys, I guess, at least, Daniil's been great. He hasn't had the sacks that he's normally had, and Zadarius started out with way more sacks, and it's cooled off. I think hopefully they're going to get back to that, running the blitz more often. They played a lot more man coverage last week against the Colts than they have by far. So I hope that they're going to start getting back to that stuff. But yeah, those guys have made a huge difference for sure.
Yeah, totally. There, and
Kind of
there's
forgot who else we're talking about, but yeah, I didn't think that those were not to disrespect any of those guys, but that was another reason I didn't really see the Vikings getting further than a wild card and maybe a first round game, because I didn't think they made enough upgrades that it was going to make a big of enough of a difference. But I was wrong about that too, and I love being wrong about the Vikings. So
real quick, I keep seeing some puppy ears down
yeah,
below.
we have a needy Boston Terrier here who
so cute.
has to be in the center of attention. So
I love that. Yeah.
Love it. But so you have a lot of, obviously, some reoccurring pieces, but one of the newest pieces of your team is Kevin O'Connell, this rookie head coach who obviously the Giants are also have with Brian Daboll, so two rookie head coaches going up against each other. But coming in, you guys got 11 wins, and it's very impressive with somebody coming in that quickly and performing that well. So how happy are you with Kevin O'Connell, and what are you expecting from him for the rest of the season?
Well, just on the record, I wanted Daboll to be the Vikings coach. I was
Really?
out there campaigning for it like every day. That's who I wanted, just because of the improvements that we saw in Josh Allen because of him. And I really wanted them to go that route. But it ended up working out with Kevin O'Connell so far, obviously. When they decided to go a new direction in the off season, something that they just kept preaching was culture, collaborations. There was like 5 C's. They're escaping me right now. And honestly, Mike Zimmer got a ton of blame for a lot of things that maybe necessarily weren't completely fair, but a huge issue was that it just wasn't a good locker room mental health wise for a lot of people. There was just a lot of cold shoulders and a bad environment, and I think we can all relate to that in our own personal employments. If you're working somewhere where you're not happy, it carries on and it's contagious, and this, for them, it's their job. So I can see how that was happening. So to have not only a switch from a defensive head coach to an offensive head coach, but somebody who is 30 years younger and can actually relate to these guys on a different level. I mean, he's only like a few years older than a lot of them, and I think it's easier for him to communicate. Plus, he just has a different attitude, and you can tell that they want to play hard for him. And in winning these extremely close games down to the wire, I think they've found the confidence that they can win them. And that's just another one of those intangible things. They know their coach believes in them, and they believe in each other as a result of that. So
it's a good answer. We actually have an off-the-cusp question here from Henry, who we all know as Hank, our third co-host who couldn't be here tonight. He asked you this question. Hi, Sally. Quick question. Which team in the NFC scares you the most?
I don't think I can pick just one. I guess I'm going to say if I have to pick one, it's going to be Philadelphia. Yeah. There is obviously all of the reasons that we know, Jalen Hurts and how talented he is and how hard that offense is to cover. It also, the Vikings got blown out by them in week 2. But really, at the core of it, it's just that the thought of playing in Philadelphia makes me physically ill.
Yes.
We had our NFC Championship game there in 2017, and it was just brutal. I think we all have PTSD from them physically assaulting us and throwing poop at us and everything else. So I don't know if anyone can take that. So
we're used to it.
They're ruthless.
They're terrible. They're terrible. They were throwing like 24-ounce frozen beers at our head and stuff.
Oh my God.
It was so messed up.
I'm guessing you were at that game then. Yeah.
It was terrible. So them, but I mean, also Dallas blew the Vikings out as well, much more recently. And San Francisco has a really solid defense. And when it comes to playing the Vikings defense, everyone's like, oh, Brock Purdy, who cares? It doesn't matter. The Vikings can make him look like, Joe Montana with that defense. They
Right.
made Mike White look amazing. They made Mac Jones look like Tom Brady. Yeah. So I'm nervous of all three of those.
I'll be the first to tell you, Sally, I'm a big Harrison Smith fan because I'm a big Notre Dame fan. And
Okay.
him and Patrick Peterson, patrolling that secondary, they're aging veterans, but they're still playing at a relatively high level. But building off your point, second worst team in passing yards allowed. What's gone wrong back there? Do you think it's the injuries to Booth and Scene, or is there more to it? Is there a coaching problem? What exactly do you think it is?
I wouldn't necessarily blame it on the injuries on those guys because they weren't acclimated into the defense in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Patrick Peterson has been down for several years. This is the best season that he's had in a long time. Earlier this season was actually his first pick he didn't have any picks last year, and this year was his first one to start off. I think he has 3 now, I want to say. So I think, it has a lot to do with age, but it's also in the secondary. There's Cam Dantzler, who, while he's been in the league a little bit, he doesn't have a lot of consistency in not playing injured. There's Duke Shelley, who started out in the practice squad, so he's brand new. And I just don't think it's fair for Harrison Smith Harrison Smith can't do it all, right? So what's important is, despite the stats of them, I think they were last in the league on points allowed. When it comes down to it, when the game's on the line, they figure it out. And they've had many games that have ended on a pick, 2 from Patrick Peterson, the Cardinals game. And was it Thanksgiving against the Patriots? Ended on a pick.
Mm-hmm.
So they somehow find a way to get it together in the last 2 minutes. Maybe, I don't know what it is.
Quick comment here before we get to Sam's next question. Completely agree. Harry Styles is the guy.
Oh my gosh. Like that was supposed to be an insult. You guys know about that, right?
O'Connell looking
Yeah.
a
But
little
who said
bit.
it?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know where it originated
One of
from.
your coaches said it at the podium.
Oh, one of our coaches said it? Well, we do have Andre Patterson, but I don't think he was there while...
Gabe, hit us up and tell us who said that.
By the way, we love Andre Patterson. Just a heads up.
Oh, yeah. He's
Martindale.
Wink.
Wink Martindale.
I'm not surprised.
So he said that he's just a blue-collar guy, and he's playing against Harry Styles. So basically, like, I don't know.
That.
Yeah, you got to find it because it's really funny. And he has like a big stain on his shirt. And it's like, bro, no one doubted it. It's okay. Like,
that's really
man,
funny.
I wish I knew where it was, but I forgot what was the question. Did he ask a question?
Sam, I think we're up to you now.
Okay, all right.
Harry Styles, yeah.
Harry Styles is the man. I know you mentioned before earlier about wondering about the Giants' pass rush. They're pretty good, and our run defense is not as great. But if you had to pick a key to the game for the Vikings to execute in order for them to come out on top in this game against the Giants, what would you think that would be?
Well, let's see. It's going to come down to the wire no matter what. It definitely is. So I don't know if I think it's going to have a lot to do with Daniel Jones and how he plays. I know he hasn't had the best. I know he's a polarizing figure in you guys' world, as always has been Kirk Cousins. So I think it depends what kind of success he can find. I know you said the run defense is better, and so I think it's important for Dalvin Cook to be able to get off to a good start so he can open up some other things. And just not to be cliche, but whoever makes the least amount of mistakes, really, because I think that both of these teams are so close to being, they could flip either way, right? Like the Vikings are so close to being, 2-9 instead of 11-9. Right. So we'll see. But I think also, sorry, I wanted to mention this. Another big thing is that at this point, yes, the Vikings could move up to the 2 seed, but they're pretty much stuck at a 3. I can see after the emotional win that they had last week, and being that their seeding can't change that much, that they might get a little complacent after that whirlwind, whereas the Giants still have a lot to play for. And so they know that they're running out of time to get into the playoffs and that they need help from other teams. And so being in control of your own destiny is a huge motivator. So I think that very well could determine the pace of the game, really. At least it should. It should.
Yeah.
But they don't
So,
always do that.
I think for me, also, we're both, just for the record, I know you mentioned Daniel Jones. Both of us are pro Daniel Jones.
Okay.
Lowest interception rate in the NFL this year. We're definitely clinging to that. But my key to the game, Sam, is pressuring Kirk Cousins, because I want to get into our pass rush a little bit and how important it is, because our secondary is atrocious. But we lost our best corner returning a punt in Adoree Jackson. Xavier McKinney, our young star safety, got into an ATV incident on the bye week, so he's out.
What?
Yeah.
We have DoorDash corners, essentially. We have Fabian Moreau, who's bounced around the league, and Nick McLeod, who's a special teamer, who dropped an interception. We had a linebacker say "free me" a few weeks ago, and he got waived recently.
Nice.
So for me, it's pressuring Kirk Cousins. It all relies on Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari against Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. Those are matchups that I'll be watching. Darrisaw is the second-rated lineman in PFF in the entire NFL. O'Neill is sixth. That's how good these men are. If the Colts can get 7 sacks, though, can the Giants get their way to Captain Kirk? That's what I want to know, because Thibodeau has what, Sam? 3 sacks, but he should have more. We should have more.
Absolutely.
He's gotten close so many times. I mean, Sally, I'm sure if you watched the Sunday Night Football game, you saw Kayvon Thibodeau play.
Oh, for sure.
He's a beast. And Azeez Ojulari, strip sack master. I mean, those two guys need to get to the pass rusher. And I think Dexter Lawrence, too, who's having an all-pro type of year, who Dexter Lawrence got to play next to Dalvin Tomlinson for 2 seasons when Tomlinson was a giant. I think he learned a lot from Dalvin, Sam, and I think that has helped him. He has the best pass rushing grade out of any defensive tackle in the NFL, nose tackle specifically, I should say. So that's my key to the game.
I would say that my key has to do with the opposite. Almost the opposite is like making sure that secondary gets good enough to cover Justin Jefferson, because he is probably one of the scariest people on that team, and he's going to run all over us if we don't contain him.
Yeah, I agree with both. The pass rush will be very important for sure.
That's a good point.
To making sure Justin can't even get open.
Yeah,
really,
it's going to be. Yeah, it's a big thing.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. It's always interesting, regardless.
Also, random question: Sal Spice, where did that originate from? That name?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's like it's been around for a really long time, but it started when I was like in 5th grade.
Is it a Spice Girls reference?
Originally it was, yes, and it's just evolved over time.
I was looking at it the whole segment, and I'm wondering, should I say something now? Should I wait? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I wish there was a better story, but yeah, it's just stuck,
Like it. I like it, though. Gabe says KJ Osborne on bubble screens is a new little wrinkle that I love. Also, Sally, do you think Thielen is losing a step?
Yeah, KJ really stepped up, and he had big games last year where he stepped up for a play here and there. Like I know when they played Carolina, he got a game-winning touchdown in overtime. That happened a few other times, but this last week was new for him being that involved in the offense, and those are the opportunities he's going to get with Justin Jefferson being covered. So very happy for him there. As far as Thielen goes, yeah, I've kind of felt like that for the last 2 years, but it's hard for me to say if that's not necessarily him and his skill level, or is that Justin Jefferson is just getting so much attention all the time. I'm not smart enough to know the difference. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the off season because there's going to be contract decisions with him. So we'll know more soon.
He has scored 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. There is that. Gabe used to joke around with us in the past that Kirk Cousins had Thielen vision. But now that's changed a little bit. But
Well, yeah, and that goes to, I think now Cousins has more flexibility to change the plays. I mean, he just came out and said he wasn't even allowed to call timeouts in the first 3 years that he played for the Vikings.
Wow.
He didn't even have that much flexibility. So yeah, Kirk Cousins isn't the kind of guy. He's not a Tom Brady. He's not an Aaron Rodgers as far as personality goes, where he's going to say, I'm taking, at least previous to now, I'm taking control of this team. I know how we're going to win and I'm going to do it. Now he has the confidence and a coach that lets him do stuff like that. So yeah, he did have Thielen vision for sure.
And wear chains on the airplane.
Yeah.
And shirtless.
Who knew? Who is this guy?
That was funny.
That was hilarious.
I can't see Daniel Jones doing that ever.
No
way.
Listen, I would have bet my life that Kirk Cousins would never be anywhere close to. That was another thing. At the beginning of the season, I'm like, okay, it feels really weird to be like 4-1, but what feels more strange is that I think I kind of like Kirk Cousins as a person.
Yeah. My favorite thing with him is, you like that? I mean, because granted, he played for Washington, so we used to play him 2 times a year for a short time. So we are familiar with him to an extent. But Sally, just 1 or 2 more questions here before we let you go.
Sure.
Couple players to watch for the Vikings, maybe one on each side of the ball, and then maybe one for the Giants that people should keep an eye on this Saturday.
Okay, well, I mean, I feel like the offense is so self-explanatory. I don't, I don't want to be so cliche and say Justin Jefferson, but because of the reasons you guys just mentioned, if he doesn't have a huge game, there's a problem. And he's at over 200 yards the last 2 weeks, right? So maybe he can get 300. I don't know. We'll see. Defense, I think Duke Shelley, who has been rotating in and out, he has had some big flash plays from being a guy that nobody knew who he was to he's had a couple interceptions. He's batted down some balls at some key moments. So I'm something I've enjoyed the last few weeks is just continuing to watch his game evolve and go from being a practice squad guy to a starter, or this week a rotational guy. I'm not necessarily sure who's going to get the start there, him or Cam Dantzler. Let's see. And again, this is going to be cliche, but how do you go against Thibodeau and how many sacks he could possibly have?
Definitely. Yeah, no, he's a beast, and he showed it in prime time too. So like people are now really paying attention to him.
Oh yeah, and his personality. Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah,
what a character.
We love him. We love having him on our team.
How could you not?
It's he's a blessing to us. Couple players that I would say Justin Jefferson, but I'll lean in a different direction as well, and I'll say Dalvin Cook, just because of the fact that our run defense is not the best. So, Dalvin Cook's going to probably be running all over us if we don't keep him contained. And on the Giants side of the ball, I'll say Daniel Jones. He's been some incredible human being recently, and we've been seeing him play left and right for this contract and doing everything he can. So I'm going to be interested to see how well he can against a vulnerable Vikings defense. Tom?
Yeah. For me, I'll start with the Giants. I like Isaiah Hodgins a lot. Very under the radar receiver who was with Dable in Buffalo. Giants have claimed him off waivers, and in the past 5 weeks, he has 2 touchdowns. So I'm really excited about him. I also think Dexter Lawrence as well. 6.5 sacks, 53 pressures from the nose tackle position is unheard of. First-time Pro Bowler. Then for Minnesota, I think I was going to say Dalvin Cook, but since Sam took him, I also like the combo edge rushers, Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter, kind of opposite of what we talked about for the Giants, because Evan Neal's a rookie. I don't know if he's ready to take on that task. Jones wasn't sacked last week, but they got the ball out quick. That's why his yards were so limited partially. And then Zadarius Smith, 3rd Pro Bowl appearance, 10 sacks. That concerns me a lot. He has a really good first step, and I think he could cause some problems for Andrew Thomas. And obviously going to throw some love for Harrison Smith. I mean, there's so many guys in the Vikings we could talk about. Sally, Eric Kendricks too. We haven't mentioned him once.
Oh, Eric Kendricks is my favorite player. Yeah, he does it all, and wherever he needs to be, he's just there. It's great. He's so dynamic, and yeah. I don't even know what else I can say about him. He's the best.
Yeah, he's.
It doesn't always
solid.
show on the stats sheet with him, but he is always involved.
Gabe has a key to the game. Keep Ed Ingram's feet away from Kirk Cousins.
Well, yeah, that is a big thing. What has he tripped him twice, Gabe? It was even twice in one game. I think the Washington game, maybe.
Yes,
wasn't great. Wasn't great.
That's pretty funny.
And of course, we're throwing Saquon in there. That's one other guy I forgot. 6th best rushing offense in the NFL. I know the Vikings, I would say they're pretty decent on run defense.
Better.
Right, Sally?
Better
than
yes, better than elsewhere.
But before we let you go, do we want to predict this game here? I don't want to give anything away, but Gabe, if you want to throw in a prediction as well, you're more than welcome. One of our viewers threw in a comment before. Tudo, what did he say? Tudo's a Giants fan, so obviously he went 23-17 Giants. Don't read the last part. I don't know why he said that, but
I mean, that's a new one.
Yeah.
I've never heard Minions before now.
Me neither, but Minions are cute, right?
Yeah. I used to have one on my keychain, but not anymore. Sally, who do you got in this game? A score prediction too, if you'd like.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's going to be very close, as I said again, and I'm thinking around like a 34-31 ish. Very close. I think it's going to be a field goal or a couple points. I don't think that is it still 4 points today, the spread?
I think so. I checked it today.
I think it's going to be less than the spread. Just that's what I'm conditioned for at this point. And I really do think that it's going to come into play that the Giants really need this win. And the Vikings, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Unfortunately, that's how I feel. But hopefully they'll keep the pedal on the gas. Excuse me.
Awesome. Sam, who do you got?
I am thinking, like Sally said, I think it's going to be a very close game. Very close in score. I think it's going to come down to a field goal as well, but I think Minnesota's going to come out with the win here. They did surprise me last week. I picked Washington last week, and the Giants surprised me, so maybe they'll do it again this week. But I think that they're going to get tied at 24 for a lot of like the fourth quarter, and then it's going to come down to a field goal, and it'll be 27-24 Vikings.
I do think, too, the Vikings are going to keep experimenting with defense like they did this past week. And so that's another reason that I think the game may – not that the past defense they've been doing prior to last week were great by any means, but I think there's going to be a lot different. We're going to see a lot more rotations also to give those guys maybe a little bit of a break, too, since this isn't a game they absolutely have to win.
Right.
But Ed Donatel has been, I mean, like I said, last time they blitzed more than they have this entire season by far. They've been playing with man coverage a lot this past week. They did. So there might not be a ton of consistency at defense either. I think they're trying to figure out what's going to work for them in the playoffs. And this might be a game where they're going to experiment quite a bit.
I could definitely see that happening. I'm going to go with the 4-point spread. I think the Vikings are going to win 24-20. As much as I want to pick the Giants, you have to be realistic here. The Vikings are the better football team right now. Dalvin Cook is going to run all over this defense, even with Landon Collins back on the active roster. I just don't know how the Giants were able to hang in there. Plus, the Giants historically do not play well in Minnesota. It's been since 2004 since the Giants have won Minnesota. And yes, 2010 doesn't count, as we discussed before, when the Metrodome had that snowstorm issue. We had to play that game in Detroit. So
who won in 2019?
Minnesota did.
Was that? Oh, that was in New York, though?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, you've always got the NFC Championship game in the year 2000.
2000, yeah.
Never forget.
They just interviewed Kerry Collins about that this week on the Giants YouTube channel. I'm like, it's been so long ago.
Yeah, it was a day. It was a day. 41-0.
Gabe says 24-23 Vikings, ? Greg Joseph or Gano will win it.
Well, Greg Joseph is very long overdue for potentially blowing a game. I think this is the 4th week in a row that he has gotten all of his extra points. So, Gabe, that gives me some hope. It was very ugly to start the season with extra points. And somehow they still kept pulling off these wins and tying it and getting into overtime, even though I know there was one game where Greg Joseph missed 3 extra points. So, yeah, it's bound to happen. I guess you'd like to see him ruin it now and not later, but I don't think it'll be this week.
We have one more prediction. Obviously, I just went 24-20 Vikings. Our third co-host, who was disappointed he could not be here tonight, decided to film this for us, and we'll play it. Hopefully the sound works. Here we go.
How's it going, guys? Hank here, on my way to MSG, so apologies for not being able to make this live stream, but let's talk a little bit about my prediction for this week's game against the Minnesota Vikings. I wouldn't say that an upset is necessarily out of the realm of possibility. I mean, we've seen some crazy wins from the Giants all season long, and you look at what happened with Washington, you definitely have to feel slightly more confident. However, my concerns are simply this. Number one, the Giants do not have a top-tier wide receiver to counter with what Minnesota has in Justin Jefferson. Number two, we also are without a true number 1 corner because it doesn't look like Adoree Jackson will be playing this week in Minnesota. So, unfortunately, I do not see a win, but I think the Giants can probably make it a close one. I'm going to say Minnesota wins by a final score of 22-17. So that's my prediction for you guys. Tom, Sam, I hope you're all doing well, and I will be back next week.
Thanks, Hank.
There you have it. Hank's our little historian. He likes to give in fun facts for us, but he was the one that told us about that 2004 thing. But all right, so clean sweep for Minnesota.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
On a Giants show, clean sweep for Minnesota.
I want to say, Sally, before we go, could this be a potential rematch in 3 weeks from now in the wild card round?
I guess it could. And I would welcome that. I would welcome that over the other options for sure. No offense, but I don't want to play Detroit again. Really?
No.
Don't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The divisional games are always a crapshoot.
For sure. And I love Detroit. I know that's wrong. You're not supposed to love your divisional foes, but I love their team. I mean, Dan Campbell, they just have so much emotion. I'm probably biased from Hard Knocks, obviously, but I really like where they're going. And I've always just loved them. You know, they're like, they've just never had any success. So you can't hate them. And I don't know. I don't want to lose to them or play them at all. So Giants, hopefully.
Right.
Although, who would be the lowest seed?
Sam,
I think we lost Tom there for a second.
Am I back?
Yeah, you just got laggy.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, there's a storm coming in here soon, but
Yeah,
I think Detroit is 7. But if San Francisco leapfrogs the Vikings, which is possible, be a 3-6 Giants-Vikings matchup.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So that's how that would work. I don't think a 2-7 is likely unless we lose 2 out of 3, which if the Eagles bench all their starters week 18, I think we probably beat them.
Right. And they probably will. I mean,
right.
Probably.
At least with Hurts in the situation he's in.
Possibly not playing. Yeah.
Right.
But we will see. Sam, anything you want to add here before we let Sally go tonight?
No, but you were a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on, especially at the last minute.
Thank you. I wish I prepped. I was really just
No, you were
ad-libbing
great.
it there, but thank you. It's really fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Sally.
Yeah.
Make sure to go check out her show, the Believe in Vikings show, and her other podcast as well, Sports in the City. Is that correct?
Sports and the City, but you can
Sports
it's all
and
in
the
my
City.
bio so it's easier.
We'll definitely
But,
we'll post the link.
Yeah.
We'll post the link to it in
For
the YouTube
sure.
video. But
Bye, Gabe. Nice to meet you too.
Skull Sally.
Okay, guys. Well, good luck Saturday. Wow, and Merry Christmas.
Yes,
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
All
Talk
right.
to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right. That was Sally from the Believe in Vikings show. Sam, what a great guest.
Yeah. That's
Gabe,
great.
apologies you couldn't be on with us. But, you know, it's kind of like when Gabe got the flu 3 years ago. I met him at a bar on New Year's Eve and was not expecting to meet him.
I love this
And now
story.
I've known Gabe for 3 years. So now I guess Gabe getting sick again led us to meeting Sally. As shitty as that sounds, like
Gabe's
now
immune
next time-
system is like fate. Gabe's immune system makes things happen.
is it? Yeah. Well, Gabe and Satin next time, if the Giants play the Vikings in the playoffs, we have to get both Gabe and Sally on here together potentially to talk about the playoff matchup. We might have a packed house if the Giants play the Vikings, but hey, I wasn't right. Technically, Tudo did pick the Giants.
Yeah. All right.
Even
We
though
got
Tito-
one giant in there.
Yeah, we got one Giants. But Sam, any final thoughts here before we sign off for the night? I know we're about to catch some Thursday night football, Jaguars Jets, so
Yeah.
looking forward
No.
to that.
Nope. Just that I'm excited for a weekend filled with football and the holiday weekend. A little nervous for this game upcoming, but I think that we're gonna put our all into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday this weekend and enjoy some time off, hopefully.
Absolutely. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Obviously, we'll be back next week before the new year starts. But yeah, on that note, appreciate you all for watching us. If you want to watch our extended interview or exclusive interview with Sally, it will be up on our YouTube channel. We will share the link on our Twitter and Instagram as well at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all the support, everybody. We'll be back next week. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.